Hello and welcome to World of Tanks Replays number 6. I'm your host Mark, and today we are going to look at the AMX 12t, the French Tier 6 light tank. It's one of the first tanks that gets an autoloader down the French tree, and it is a portent of many good things to come. I personally have played this tank quite a bit since I've worked my way up, and I started in the French tree, which might I suggest for you newer players, don't do that. Start German, Russian, or American. Don't do French. It's a bad idea. Tier 4 is horrid. Trust me. Don't do it. Okay, so 12T. It's a good, strong tank. Personally, I find that the acceleration is a little low, but pull this out. I don't need that. Personally, I find that the acceleration is a little low whenever I want to get out of a place. But if you don't put yourself in a stupid spot where you're going to easily get shot, you can actually do a lot of damage. And we're going to see in all 3 games today that the 12T can be a formidable scouter and a formidable damage dealer. So, standard format. I know yesterday with the Ferdinand was a little weird, but that's because it was tank destroyers. We're back into the mode of regular tanks that aren't fixed forward. And this is a scout tank, so we're going to go into our standard scout format, which is game number 1, well, kind of scout. Game number 1 is our standard battle. It's a first class badge, but it's pretty standard. It's kind of, if you guys have a fairly decent game, we're going to see basically that. We're going to see a pretty standard game. Game number 2 is a good offensive game. It shows actually the cleanup potential of the 12T and how once the game is moving in hand, or even if you're behind a little bit, the 12T with that 6-round autoloader is able to do enough damage per shot that you can clean up a lot of those lower enemies very, very quickly. That cleanup is actually something that is shared with a lot of the French autoloaders up through Tier 8 because they all have a very, very high round counts with decent damage. Right, the 12T has 6 rounds, the 1375 has 6 rounds, the 1390 has 6 rounds, the Lorraine 40 ton has 6 rounds, and the AMX 5100, the Tier 8 heavy tank, also has 6 rounds. It's 5 tanks with 6 rounds each, and each one of those rounds does enough damage at its tier that you can actually punish low health enemies and clean up a vast number of them per clip. And we'll see that in game 2. Game number 3 is our game of the day. And we're going to see a 12T player who does an absolutely phenomenal early scout job on, I believe it's an assault. And then once the assault is underway and his scouting is no longer necessary, he makes an excellent push and does a really good job in sowing complete chaos in the enemy lines. So that's what we're going to see. But first, game 1, the appetizer, if you will. Alright, so we'll get back to battle since I had this thing paused. We'll speed up through the intro. Boop. And here we go. So this is by Tyrannus Umbra. And because I don't look up names beforehand, I'm not sure, but considering the language is English, that could either be EU or NA. I'm not sure which one, and unfortunately, it doesn't tell me. So we have an encounter battle on Siegfried Line. Let's see what our first step is. So as you can see, the 12T isn't super fast. 55 kph is fairly quick, but that is also slightly downhill. And the tank just kind of looks sluggish, which is surprising. It never feels fast. So he's taking a somewhat forward position here. Not way forward and not way out in the field like that M5 Stuart did to get killed. Instead, taking this position means that he's well protected and is still able to put out damage with the gun. You notice as well that he's packing 1 clip of premium rounds. I suggest this for all autoloaders, just to have 1 clip of premium rounds, just in case, especially with light tanks, just in case you run into something that maybe you can't quite kill. So, M5 Stuart is down, a Gorilla, which was knocking over trees, has been killed. There's nothing to worry about there. And what do we see? A Churchill in the middle and an E25 in the open. So, it's going to look for shots on the E25 first. Does he have any good shots? Not really. Take a shell, managed to land it through the upper deck. Second one bounces, it's a critical. That one was probably off the gun. Could have been into the commander's cupola. And a kill there. But he takes a shot in return. He's down to 461 out of only 600 hit points, which is not very many. Alright, he's likely been spotted by this ELC. That was through proxy spotting through the hill, because the ELC is close enough. The ELC, due to its low profile, manages to take a shot and then escape unscathed. Doesn't look like he did any damage, though. But artillery is raining down upon those two tank destroyers, that ARL V-39 and the AMX AC-46. So Tyrannus here has basically done all the scouting he can do, and now he needs to make a decision. Does he fall back and push up through the cap zone, or where does he go? He needs to go somewhere, because right now he's not helping anything anymore now that the battle has been engaged. So he's going to fall back. Yeah, there's one time speed. So he's going to fall back here. And again, like I mentioned, the engine power on this tank is low comparatively, so it feels really sluggish. It never really gets going. And you can see that represented really well here, where you really want to just turn and run. Kind of don't have that opportunity to. So he's got one hit in. He's going to go all the way around the long way here, it looks like. He'll probably dive into the middle of town and see if he can't get a flank off where his heavies and tank destroyers have engaged the enemy. So he's pushing, he's being cautious because there's no spotting over here, so he's not quite sure where all the enemy is. Now his team is ahead 6-4, which is good for him. It means that the enemy team is feeling a lot of pressure to get kills, which means they're going to go where they know the enemy is, rather than move around and try to find the enemies they don't spot. So he's being really careful here. He's going to push over and try and maybe get flank shots on this T-29, support this AC-46. But he uses the third-person view to spot, notices the T-29 is looking down that alley. He's got to be really careful. Looks like he's going to back in, maybe? Nope. Spots the ELC. The ELC is coming around, so he's going to engage the ELC. There's the ELC. Oh, the ELC misses. I don't know how he managed to miss that, but he did. He misses his first two shots, but then uses the lock-on, hits the ELC, sets him on fire, and then finishes him off. And dodges a T-29 shell. That was a very, very nice dodge. Probably unintentional, but very fortuitous, since that is a what is it, about 300 damage shell that would have put him down to a one-shot from basically anyone on the board. So now that he's done that, he's got to reposition yet again, because the position he was in before was untenable. He needs to get flanking shots with this gun, since the penetration isn't great. Instead, he's going to come over to the flank that's being hammered by this Hellcat. He sees the T-29. He's not able to do much about it yet. So there's a Hellcat engaging with an E-25 and an ARL V-39. Looks like the Hellcat doesn't have the top gun. He's got the lower one. T-29 goes down. There's a KV-85. Takes a shot, puts it into the side. The KV-85 runs into the gun of the AC-46 and is almost dead. And so our AT is going to, or our AMX 12t is going to ignore that KV-85, which is finished off by the AC-46. I don't necessarily like that play. I really feel like if he would have pushed into that, he still could come back here and get into the rear of this T-150 and also have gotten the kill on the KV-85. I feel like that was a little bit lazy, but it still happens. So 2 kills, misses the first shot on the Hellcat, gets the second shot on the Hellcat because the other Hellcat, which was turning to fire, has such slow turret reverse that he wasn't able to get around. Now he's reloaded here with 1 shell left because he knows that all that's left is an M12 artillery, which definitely has more hit points than what he can do in 1 shot. So he's going to reload a full clip. He's got 12 rounds, so he might as well. And now he's going to move toward the last known position There we go, and the Chaffee spots him, says he was last spotted over there, but the 12T has moved. Quite significantly, I might add.
Target acquired.
So, he's gonna spot up. First shot misses. Second shot goes in and tracks. Artillery misses. Third shot. And fourth shot. And that's 15 kills. So there you have it. Really, really basic game. Let me close that out. Nothing too exciting. Just shows how the tank can be played. It's really, it's a good tank. It's not bad by any means. There actually aren't very many absolutely bad tanks. They're just tanks that require a certain type of play, and this one is one of those tanks where he tried to do some spotting early, discovered there wasn't a lot going on in the field, but he managed just to spot out the Churchill 1, and the E25, and I think there was one more tank in the field before making the right decision, which is that his spotting wasn't useful anymore, so we needed to get in and engage in combat. And he did the right moves. He played the flanks. He went to the weak sides and used his mobility. Even though he's not as fast as a lot of other tanks that we've seen, he still was able to move around, get flank shots, get behind, and really use his damage. And because of that, he was able to clean up. Cleaned up the T150, could have cleaned up the KV-85. I didn't like his decision to not engage there. Could have, or cleaned up the Hellcat, and then got artillery. So 4 kills. Definitely a good showing. All right, so we're going to move on to game number 2. Let me get it booted here. Oh, pop my back a little bit. That's how you need to go. Let's connect my head. All right, so game number 2. Now, according to the replay, this is on Asia, but I think we all know that Asia is not a map. Instead, the map is, if it ever shows me, because I don't remember, Pearl River, which is Asia. All right, so we're in game. Let's pop over and check out game number 2. So we'll fast forward through this bit again.
Time to roll out.
We'll slow it down to 1 times again. So he's headed down the path down the 1-2 line. Now this can be a really strong position for a large number of tanks, especially scouts with a decent view range. So what he needs to do here is he needs to get ahead of the pack, push forward, and try to get a good spotting position, which you can find up on this hill over here. So that's where he's going to go, and he's going to post up. The problem with getting into that location is that there's not a ton of cover. So he's going to try and generate a little bit of cover, but it's really not enough. So you'll see, so he's going to come in here. He knows there's no cover, so he's going to knock down this tree right there. Right? Yep, there it is. So he's knocked down the tree, and that'll provide him a little bit of cover. I would have preferred him to post up in or knock the tree down in a slightly different spot, but that's okay. So he's got his camo net. He's looking around. Doesn't see much of anything. Matter of fact, not much of anything has been spotted at all. Just 3 enemy tanks. And there is a large push going down the 1-2 line. Now, I've seen this work only a handful of times, where your friendly team decides to do a massive heavy push over on this side, and I'm not a fan. Instead, I would prefer heavies to be in the middle, so over here, or down this line where you see the enemy team is pushing with a large number of their heavies. Now, what this means is that you need to scout ahead, because you need to know what's going on in this range. So our 12T is doing exactly the right thing, which is pushing forward and spotting out tanks. Sees a Tiger, misses the first shot.
Track hit.
Now he's taking shots. Takes one from the T-37, takes one from the Tiger 1. It's not a great position, but he gets down below the T-37 and the Tiger 1 falls back because he's taking fire from other places. You'll notice that the setup for this particular 12T driver is 12 rounds of APCR, the premium ammunition, and 18 rounds of AP, which is fine. He's definitely shooting APCR first, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's his prerogative to do. So he's pushing up. The T-29 is leading the charge, which is fine along this particular hill because of that turret armor. So he takes a shell at the enemy T-29, puts it in, and our 12T is a little uncertain. But you'll notice we have a problem. Not only are they down 3 to 5, but look at this. There are no friendly tanks in the canyon road, which means there are a large number of tanks that are pushing towards Cap, which they haven't realized yet. So he's going to shoot at the Tog here with his premium ammunition, which is completely unnecessary. You have more than enough penetration to go through a Tog with your regular rounds. So these are wasted rounds. Absolutely. You'll notice in the middle as well, all that's left is a Lonely Tiger P versus a Tiger 1, an IS, a T-25/2, and a Yeg Panther. Not good news for the Tiger P. And he's only at 477, and now he's dead. So they've now lost 2 of the 3 flanks. They might be crushing this one, but the north flank and the middle flank are both gone. So they really, really need to make a play here. They need to return and defend, or they need to push very, very hard. Let's see if they can make this work. There's a shot through the gun mantlet. Again, way more penetration than you need. I don't know where that Tog shot was coming from. So, 6 rounds left. Oh, and here comes the T-25/2. The T-25/2, I believe the gun tops out at the same one the Hellcat gets, which is 240 damage. So you can take a couple of shells. Oh, and bounces the shell. What a lucky play. That could have been 240 damage that he really wished he could have had, or hit points that he really wished he would have had. But gets lucky, 25-2 bounces off. Now, finally, the team is noticing that there is a Tiger 1 and a T-29 that are moving towards Cap, and who knows what else. And they're only evened up, and they only see two tanks on the map, plus the Tog, which they're fairly certain is still over where it was last spotted. And base cap. So they need to get back and reset base. Otherwise, they'll lose. They're not anywhere near cap. They haven't even started capping base. So if they don't defend, their game's already over. So the 12T, which is one of the faster tanks, actually the fastest tank remaining on the team, is returning back with an AT-15A, the Tier 7 premium tank destroyer on the British line, and a friendly Tiger P, who already have a large head start. Well, there's a Tiger 1 that was full health in cap. That's never something you want to see. And a T-29. Oh my goodness, full health as well. 2 full health tanks in cap. So Tiger P has just charged right in and is doing everything he can. But he's going to go down soon, especially if he keeps taking hits like that. But our 12T is finally in range.
Ready to fire.
He's locked on to the Tiger 1. Take down the easy target first. One shot. His last premium round into the side. Now he's got to reload. Reload on this tank is, I think, 20 seconds, maybe 25.
Ready to fire.
The Tiger P is still alive somehow. And bounces another T-29 shell.
Enemy armor is damaged.
So we've got the 12T who is just pumping back full, pumping the rear of that T-29 full of lead. And thanks to that return to take down the Tiger and the T-29, plus his team has moved forward, means that instead of being down 7-7, they are now up 12-8. All that's left is a Yeg Panther, an ISU 152, and a Panzer 38 NA. Now, the 38 NA isn't much of a threat, but both the SU 152 and the Yeg Panther can deal a considerable amount of damage, especially to tanks that may not be all that high on hit points. They can easily two-shot that IS or the AMX M445. Now, Tiger 1 on full health is definitely very dangerous, but considering how far away he is, this could be really bad. So they're capping. Our 12T has pleaded, please, please don't cap. I want these points. I want to be able to get all of this extra damage. But they still cap. And what do they get for all their capping? A reset.
Armor is damaged. Enemy is hit.
They were reset by the TDs who climbed the hill. And now they're not able to cap.
Fire.
And that M445 had all the cap points and died without finishing the cap.
Enemy vehicle
That SU-152 takes down 2. That's exactly what I was talking about. Look at that. Without this 12T, they'd be dead. But because the 12T returned, he got the kill on the Egg Panther and the SU-152 to finish the game with 3 kills and 2,500 damage. So, very, very good decision making by our 12T driver in this battle. He did an early scout up on the side, noticed that all his heavies went that way as well, so he pushed forward, which scouted ahead for his heavies, so they were able to progress unimpeded. He had a little bit of combat at range, and kind of avoided the minimap a little too much. I really would have liked to have seen him pay more attention and understand that because both flanks were dead, he needed to return earlier than engage that. Engage the Tog. Also, lucky bounce on that 25/2. That would have been 240 hit points, more or less, that he really would have wanted to have back. All right, so game number 2, a good showing of the tank. Definitely does clean up at the end, but as I was saying, that SU-152, even with the 12T and even with 3 other tanks, killed 2 of the tanks that were there. He killed both the AMX M445 and he managed to kill the IS without dying and without taking damage. The only damage that tank took, other than one, I think it was a 244 damage shell, probably from the M4. What all of the damage to that SU once the 12T got there was from the 12T. So be careful and don't cap. I talked about this before. I think that M4 played it very, very poorly, which is trying to cap out when you're ahead 12-7 or 8. And you know that the enemy tank destroyers are in the area. He sat there and capped. He had 90-something cap points and died. So all of that capping was worthless. Completely worthless. It wasn't worth it at all. He died without doing any more damage and wasn't able to use those cap points to gain any extra experience. And yeah, so you have to be careful with that. And that's something I'm probably going to harp on this almost every video, almost every show, which is that capping should happen in one of 2 cases, right? Well, one of 3 cases, I guess. The first is that you're going for a fast cap, which is hard enough to do in a disorganized 15 versus 15 match. You can pull it off, but the problem is you get less experience than even if you had fought it out and lost. You frustrate everybody else, and it's really hard to do because you have to hold the point without taking any damage, and that doesn't always happen. Number 2 is you're behind, where you're behind by 2 or 3 tanks, and you have maybe 3 or 4 tanks, and you can see that one tank is holding off an onslaught and they're not going to last very long. So what do? You cap. Why do you cap? You cap for 2 reasons. You cap once so that you can maybe pull a win out of what looks like a loss, which is always good, because if you've already done a lot of damage, then the win is just going to give you a 50% multiplier and you don't care about the cap points. You're just looking for that W. And the second part is that if the game is close, or if maybe the enemy team has completely abandoned cap and they've pushed all the way into your base, if you return to cap, if they're not already capping, then a lot of times they'll have to return at least one tank, if not more than one, to reset the cap to try to deal with you, which is good because that decreases the pressure that's on your team. So that's the second case you would want to cap. The third case is, and I've run into this before, where you're a slow tank with a bunch of other slow tanks, and the only tanks remaining on the map are a bunch of fast light tanks. So what do? Do you chase them around the map for 8 minutes and then draw? No, you don't bother. Just cap. Let them go free, because you don't want to risk a draw. If you've got the game in hand, but you know you can't catch them, if they can just run away forever, just cap it out. I've done it multiple times where we've been ahead. We've had 4 or 5 tanks left on the end of the battle, and there's one light tank who knows what health he's at, but he's running around, driving and running and doing everything else, and it just doesn't matter at that point. You don't know where to find him. Even XVN doesn't help against light tanks. So what if you know its last location? If it's a light tank, there's no way he's going to be there. And if he is, that doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed to get the kill. So instead, just cap. Just cap it out. It's easier, and you might as well. That secures the win. Maybe it's a little bit of extra experience, but really we don't care about cap point experience because that's mostly useless. But it gets the game over with. It gets the win. It gets the experience. Done. So those are the 3 cases I think that capping is useful. Outside of those 3, I wouldn't do it. And I think that M445 was another great example of why you don't sit on cap and be content with capping. Because he died. He died and he didn't do any more damage, and he lost all the cap points, and it was up to the 12t to win. If he had pushed forward, then he could have done damage on the Egg Panther, he could have put damage on the SU-152, the game would be over faster, and he'd have more experience and more money. So, he lost on everything because he decided to sit on cap and gain 90 cap points. Alright, rant over. Let me get up game number 3. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal game. It showcases all of the strengths of the 12t, which is its size, its ability to scout, and the power of that autoloader. This game is phenomenal. I really, really enjoy smart, experienced players playing tanks that are not necessarily top tier, but have a lot of potential, and this is one of those. It's loading up right now. We've got an assault on Sand River. Let's hop over and check it out. Alright, so I'm going to speed forward this other stuff. We have a 2-man platoon here. Our 12t and diff side man, and a Black Prince with guard 1-2. Unfortunately, my recognition of languages is basically non-existent. If it's not like French or English, I'm not going to get it. Sorry. So I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I'm assuming it's off one of the EU servers. It looks... I don't even want to be guessing. So EU something or other. So we have him pushing forward into a very strong position if you can get there early enough, which is right here in this gully. Because it allows you to poke up on this ridgeline and spot, and also you can poke up... Hold on, where's my mouse? Poke up over here and spot where that ARL-44 is. So there's the spot. He spots the 25-2 and the KV-1. You notice that he has 6th Sense on this tank, which means he's been playing it quite a bit. Also a mark of excellence. Well done to him. Also managed to spot it at KV-13. So we've got 3 tanks spotted out. 4 tanks. He also spots the Sturr Emil. That is a juicy, juicy target who's in wide open to be shot. Well, hopefully, the team will oblige by shooting him. Or at least artillery. A lot of artillery on this map. 3 per side. So we've got 4 things. KV-1 is taking hits. Looks like that ARL-44 went down to combined power. But one of the Stug 3s just goes down to artillery. There's a Black Prince that is slowly making its way over to support. There's a Tiger 1 who's hiding back in the back, and a Comet who hasn't hasn't crested the hill yet. So the 12T is just spotting and doing a wonderful job of it. This is definitely a strength of the tank, which is its ability, because of its size. It's a little taller than I would like, but it's narrow enough that it's able to escape fairly easily. And we see an Excelsior here who's moving forward. Again, we see a 6-round clip. So Excelsior tracks the Excelsior, puts another round into it, finishes the Excelsior off. There's one thing that you don't need. Oh, takes a hit from the KV-1. Time to get out of here. Stayed there just a little too long. Probably that greedy shot on that IS from that range he really didn't need to take. But he took it anyways. Instead of landing a shot for extra damage, he pays for it by getting a shot by the KV-1. He's lucky that Sturr Emil Didn't shoot him there because instead of a 163 damage shell, that would have been a 490 damage plus percentage or minus percentages. Could have been an absolute ton of damage and possibly one-shot it. Instead, this IS is moving into the open, which leaves our 12T a perfect opportunity to try and put some shells in. And the IS has amazingly bouncy armor. It's not all that great. I believe it's only 75 millimeters. But for whatever reason, its angle makes it very, very bouncy. Well, thankfully, our 12T here is able to do some very accurate shooting at this range. This gun is not normally this accurate. Doing an excellent job there. Meanwhile, his Black Prince comrade, platoon mate, has pushed up and engaged and killed immediately by artillery after finishing off that 25-2. So the game is really even right now, but a good fire finishes off the IS. That's 2 kills, 1,400 damage, and they're up 7-5. Now, he sees 4 tanks on the map. He knows that there's only one more tank, a tank destroyer, that he hasn't spotted, and the 3 artillery. Which means the artillery is free to engage. So the next job, let's load up, and let's go find that artillery. Oh, there's a Hummel already. Let's stop here. Saw another shot, so he knows there's another artillery in the area. Sets the Hummel on fire, is going to let him burn out. Nope, he's going to finish him off with a shot. I don't know if I agree with letting that shot go. One more tick and the fire would have got him. Dodges an artillery shell. Lucky break there. He's going to roll over the hill because he knows there's an artillery sitting there shooting pretty consistently. Which one is it? Is it the Bishop? Nope, it's the Sexton. 140 damage. 140 hit points, one shot finishes him off. The Bishop, in the meantime, with that quick reload gun, has been firing non-stop at this 12T. He's going to take a shell, fire another shell. He's going to get another one off. He is. He's going to take a hit from the Bishop, but it's not enough damage with that gun. And he's going to finish off the Bishop for a Pascucci's medal. Well done here. And 5 kills. Although 3 of those being artillery, it sure is an easy way to get to Top Gun. So what's left? We've got a Tiger 1, looks like an AT-7, and an E-25. And they've all been spotted in a corner. So rather than sit back, you're at a half health. Let's push forward and see what you can do. So the Tiger 1 takes down friendly Tiger 1. They've got a lot of hit points there. That's a lot of experience. We're sitting at 2,175 damage. Quite a bit. Let's see if we can't make it a little bit more. 5 kills. Let's go for that Top Gun. The AT-7 takes out a 3001D. We're going to roll up on top of the hill here. What do we got? A Tiger. We're going to shoot the Tiger first. Shot on the Tiger. Shot on the Tiger. I don't know why the Tiger hasn't shot him yet. AT-8. It's going to aim for the weak spot, which is the cupola there. One shot in. Nice. And the second shot? No, it bounces. It went a little wide. Third shot. Last one. Oh, and it goes in. Nice. 6 kills. 2,677 damage. We can go chase down that E-25, but he's long gone. Looks like he's going to go try and get some artillery kills. Stops to kill the Bishop. The FV-304 finishes him off. What a game. Not a very long one either, only about 7 minutes. Which is because assaults are only 10 minutes long. But still a great, great game. We saw, I love this game because it showcases all of the great things about the 12T. It showcases its scouting ability, it showcases its mobility, it showcases its ability to move in and clean up. It's just phenomenal, phenomenal play. And by taking that early position right there in that, I don't know exactly the word, but in that shadow basically of the sand dunes, he was able to spot for his team. I think he got a ton of spotting damage. Let me pull that up. I have it up right here. So let me look at this. Yeah, so he did 2,677 damage by himself in 23 out of 24 shots. So phenomenal accuracy, only missed 1. However, he did 2,505 damage due to assistance. A lot of that was spotting, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, just an absolute ton of damage to spotting, which was phenomenal. It's exactly what you want to see. Put the spots up, got tanks just died, right? I mean, let's see if I've got a couple here. A KV-1 here, killed, damage to allies 260, right? That's a good shot. The Tiger that he spotted, 441, that's 2 shells. AT-7, 443, that was at the end of the game there where he's spotting those 3 tanks. That IS, 271. That Studer Emil, 702 damage. Right, that's almost all of the Studer Emil hit points. And that's all because he was able to poke up and spot that tank. Didn't even shoot at it. That T-25, 266. Just absolutely phenomenal play. Absolutely phenomenal. I love that. Ace Tanker, both the last two, but Ace Tanker, Pascucci's, high caliber, Top Gun, Scout, and Patrol Duty. Phenomenal game, all around excellence in every way. So well done to that 12T driver. All right, awesome. I hope you guys learned something a little bit about the 12T. I certainly enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the matches even a second time because they're just so good, especially that last one. It's just phenomenal. So tomorrow is Thursday, since today's Wednesday. Tomorrow is the Type 59, everybody's favorite tank to love and hate. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to try and find 3 really good matches because I know that this tank is well loved or hated or feared or enjoyed. It's kind of all over the place because it's so rare, but because it's so good. So, Type 59 tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Until next time, happy tanking, guys.